The Journey of Change, Part 1. Once upon a time, in a small village called Greenwood, there lived a young man named Leo. Leo was an ordinary person with big dreams. He lived with his parents in a small wooden house near the forest. The village was peaceful, and the people were kind. But Leo felt that something was missing in his life. He wanted more than the simple life he had. He wanted to change his life, to make it better, and to see the world. Leo was a dreamer. Every night, he would look at the stars and think about the world beyond his village. He imagined cities full of lights, tall buildings, and people from different cultures. He wanted to learn new things, meet new people, and have adventures. But every morning, he would wake up and, helping his father in the field, feeding the animals, and going to bed early. He was stuck in a cycle that he couldn't break. One day, while Leo was working in the field, he heard a voice calling his name. It was an old man named Mr. Harper who lived at the edge of the village. Mr. Harper was known for his wisdom, and people often went to him for advice. He was kind but mysterious, and not many people knew much about his. "Leo," Mr. Harper said, "I see the fire in your eyes. You want to change your life, don't you?" Leo was surprised. How did Mr. Harper know? But instead of asking, he simply nodded. "Change is not easy, my boy," Mr. Harper continued. "It requires courage, patience, and hard work. But it is possible. I can see that you have a strong heart and a sharp mind. If you are truly ready to change your life, I can help you." Leo's heart raced with excitement. This was what he had been waiting for. But there was also fear. What if he failed? What if he made the wrong choices? The fear of the unknown was strong, but his desire to change was stronger. "I'm ready, Mr. Harper," Leo said with determination. "Please teach me how to change my life." Mr. Harper smiled. "Very well, then. The first lesson you must learn is that change begins with the mind. Your thoughts shape your reality. If you want to change your life, you must first change the way you think." Leo was confused. "But how do I do that?" "By filling your mind with positive thoughts," Mr. Harper explained. "You must believe in yourself, and you must believe that change is possible. Doubt and fear will only hold you back. Every morning, when you wake up, tell yourself that today is a new day and that you have the power to change your life. Start small and be patient. Change doesn't happen overnight." Leo took Mr. Harper's words to heart. The next morning, he woke up early and stood in front of the mirror. He looked at himself and said, "Today is a new day. I have the power to change my life." At first, it felt strange, but as days passed, he started to believe in his own words. He felt more confident and more motivated to make changes in his life. He started with small things. Instead of spending his free time daydreaming, he began to read books that Mr. Harper gave him. These books were full of knowledge about the world, about different cultures, and about how to improve oneself. Leo learned that knowledge was the key to change. The more he learned, the more he realized how much he didn't know. As weeks turned into months, Leo's life began to change. He was no longer the same person who felt stuck in the village. He was growing, not just in knowledge, but in character. He became more disciplined, more curious, and more determined to change his life. He saved money, learned new skills, and even started teaching the children in the village what he had learned. The villagers noticed the change in Leo and admired his dedication, but Leo knew that his journey had just begun. The more he learned, the more he realized how far he still had to go. He often visited Mr. Harper to seek guidance and wisdom. Mr. Harper was pleased with Leo's progress, but he knew that the biggest challenges were yet to come. One evening, as the sun was setting, Mr. Harper called Leo to his house. "Leo," he said, "you have come a long way. You have changed in many ways, but now it is time for the next step. The real change happens when you step out of your comfort zone. You have learned a lot here, but there is a whole world out there waiting for you. It's time for you to leave the village and explore the world." Leo's heart skipped a beat. Leave the village? The thought excited him, but it also scared him. Greenwood was all he had ever known. His family, his friends, everything was here. How could he leave? "You must make a choice, Leo," Mr. Harper said softly. "Stay here and live a safe, comfortable life, or step out into the unknown and find the life you truly desire. The choice is yours, but remember, real change requires real courage." Leo was silent for a long time. The sun had set, and the night was full of stars. He looked up at the sky, just as he had done so many times before. But this time, he knew that his dreams were within reach. He just had to be brave enough to chase them. "I'll do it," Leo said finally. "I'll leave the village and find the life I want." Mr. Harper smiled, proud of Leo's decision. "Very well, then. Prepare yourself, Leo. Your journey will not be easy, but it will be worth it. And remember, no matter where you go, the most important changes are the ones that happen within you." And so, Leo began to prepare for his journey. He said goodbye to his family and friends, packed his things, and set out into the world. His heart was full of excitement, fear, and hope. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. He was ready to change his life. The Journey of Change, Part 2. Leo left Greenwood early in the morning, just as the sun was rising. The village was quiet, and a soft mist hung in the air. He took one last look at his home, the fields, and the forest that had been his world for so long. Then, with a deep breath, he turned and walked away, following the path that led out of the village and into the unknown. The road was long and winding, and Leo walked for days. He passed through small towns and villages, met new people, and saw things he had only read about in books. The world was vast, and everywhere he went, he learned something new. But as exciting as the journey was, it was also challenging. Leo faced obstacles he had never imagined. One day, Leo arrived in a large city. It was the biggest place he had ever seen. The streets were full of people, and the buildings towered above him. The noise and the hustle of the city overwhelmed him at first. He felt small and lost in this new environment. But he remembered Mr. Harper's words about stepping out of his comfort zone, so he took a deep breath and ventured into the heart of the city. Leo soon realized that the city was full of opportunities, but it was also full of competition. Finding a job was difficult, and living in the city was expensive. Leo used the money he had saved to rent a small room, but it wasn't long before his savings ran out. He knew he had to find work quickly, but everywhere he went, he was turned away. Employers wanted people with experience, and Leo had none. Days turned into weeks, and Leo began to feel discouraged. He missed his family, his village, and the simplicity of his old life. He wondered if he had made a mistake by leaving Greenwood. The city was hard, and the people didn't have time to help a stranger like him. But Leo didn't give up. He remembered what Mr. Harper had taught him about the power of positive thinking. Every morning, even when things were tough, he would tell himself, "Today is a new day. I have the power to change my life." He kept looking for work, kept learning, and kept believing that things would get better. One evening, as Leo was walking through the city, he noticed a small bookstore tucked away in a quiet street. The store was old, and the sign above the door read "The Wise Owl." Curious, Leo went inside. The store was filled with books from floor to ceiling, and the smell of old paper filled the air. Behind the counter was an elderly man with a kind face. "Good evening," the man said with a warm smile. "Welcome to the Wise Owl. How can I help you?" Leo explained that he was new to the city and was looking for work. He told the man about his journey and how he was determined to change his life. The man listened carefully and nodded. "You have a strong spirit, young man," he said. "I can see that you are willing to work hard. How would you like to work here at the bookstore? It's not a high-paying job, but you'll have a place to stay, and you'll learn a lot." Leo's eyes lit up with excitement. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He eagerly accepted the job, grateful for the chance to prove himself. Working at the Wise Owl was a new experience for Leo. The bookstore was small, but it was full of treasures. The old man, whose name was Mr. Fletcher, taught Leo everything about books, how to care for them, how to find the right book for a customer, and how to run a business. Leo soaked up the knowledge like a sponge. He loved being surrounded by books and learning from Mr. Fletcher's wisdom. As time went on, Leo became more confident in his abilities. He was no longer the lost young man who had arrived in the city. He was growing, learning, and changing every day. He made friends with the regular customers, and soon people started to come to the bookstore just to talk to him. They appreciated his kindness, his willingness to help, and his knowledge of books. But Leo's journey was far from over. One day, Mr. Fletcher called him into the back room of the store. The room was filled with old, dusty books that looked like they hadn't been touched in years. "Leo," Mr. Fletcher began, "you've done well here, and I'm proud of you. But I can see that you're still searching for something. You've made great progress, but your journey of change isn't complete. I want to give you something that might help you on the next part of your journey. Mr. Fletcher handed Leo an old, leather-bound book. The cover was worn, and the pages were yellowed with age. There was no title on the cover, and when Leo opened it, he saw that the pages were filled with strange symbols and ancient writing. "This book has been in my family for generations," Mr. Fletcher explained. "It's a book of wisdom passed down from one generation to the next. It contains the secrets of change and personal growth. But it's not an easy book to understand. You'll need to study it carefully, and you'll need to have an open mind." Leo was amazed. He thanked Mr. Fletcher and promised to take good care of the book. That night, he began to study it. The symbols and writing were difficult to understand, but Leo was determined. He spent hours each night trying to decipher the book's secrets. Slowly, the book began to reveal its wisdom to him. The book taught Leo about the deeper aspects of change. It wasn't just about changing his environment or learning new skills. Real change, the book said, comes from within. It's about understanding yourself, your fears, your desires, and your purpose in life. It's about letting go of the past, embracing the present, and shaping the future with intention. As Leo continued to study the book, he began to apply its lessons to his life. He reflected on his journey, on the choices he had made, and on the person he was becoming. He realized that the challenges he had faced were not obstacles, but opportunities for growth. Every difficulty had taught him something valuable, and every setback had made him stronger. Months passed, and Leo became a new person. He was no longer the young man who had left Greenwood in search of a better life. He had found not just a new life, but a new sense of purpose. He was more confident, more knowledgeable, and more at peace with himself. He had learned that change is not about running away from who you are, but about discovering who you can become. One day, as Leo was closing the bookstore, he looked at the old leather-bound book that Mr. Fletcher had given him. He had read every page, and though there were still mysteries he didn't fully understand, he knew that the book had given him something far more valuable than knowledge. It had given him wisdom. Leo decided that it was time to return to Greenwood. He wanted to see his family and share what he had learned with the people in his village. He knew that his journey wasn't over, but he felt ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. When Leo returned to Greenwood, he was welcomed with open arms. His parents were overjoyed to see him, and the villagers were amazed at how much he had changed. He was no longer the dreamer who stared at the stars, wishing for a different life. He was a man who had faced the world, learned its lessons, and come back stronger. Leo shared his experiences with the villagers. He told them about the challenges he had faced, the lessons he had learned, and the wisdom he had gained. He started teaching the children in the village, just as he had done before. But now he had even more to offer. He taught them not just about the world, but about the importance of personal growth, self-belief, and the power of change. Leo's story inspired many in the village to pursue their own dreams. Some wanted to travel, others wanted to learn new skills, and some simply wanted to improve their lives in small ways. Leo became a mentor to many, guiding them as Mr. Harper and Mr. Fletcher had guided him. But Leo knew that his own journey wasn't over. He continued to study, to learn, and to grow. He kept the old leather-bound book close, knowing that it still had more to teach him. He understood that change was a lifelong journey, not a destination. And he was ready to embrace whatever the future held. Years later, Leo looked back on his life and smiled. He had come a long way from the young man who had left Greenwood in search of a better life. He had faced challenges, learned valuable lessons, and grown in ways he had never imagined. But more than that, he had learned that true change comes from within, and that the journey of change is the most rewarding journey of all. And so, Leo's story ends, but the lessons he learned live on. Change is possible for anyone who has the courage to believe in themselves, to face their fears, and to embrace the unknown. It's a journey that requires patience, determination, and an open heart. But for those who are willing to take that journey, the rewards are beyond measure. The end.